Building secure software is of paramount importance in a world that is on an accelerated digitization path. Welcome to the Purple Book Podcast, where we host thought leaders and security practitioners to tackle the monumental challenge of building secure software. Our mission is to spread awareness, challenges, and best practices in secure software development. This show is your guide to hearing inspiring stories of leaders building secure software against odds, and getting to know the personal stories of these leaders who make it all happen. Here are your hosts, the members of the Purple Book community.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Purple Book podcast. This is your host, Raj Patil, member of the Purple Book community. And today I have the pleasure of welcoming Laura Bell, who is founder and CEO of SafeStack, which is on a mission to enable developers to develop secure software, a mission that we at Purple Book community believe in and very dear to us as well. So today we will talk about her journey, starting from professional journey, and then we'll talk about why SafeStack and then how you can engage with her. Laura, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Raj. It's lovely to be here.
Yeah. So from where you are, I see you have the early morning sun on your face. So where are you, Laura?
I'm in the very, very top of New Zealand at the moment. So it's a beautiful spring day, but it's a little early in the morning.
I see. All right. Yeah, I'm here in Bay Area, California. We have the fall weather upon us. Very interesting diversity of weather here. But both of us, no matter where we are, the concern about the software security, I think, is the same.
Absolutely. And I think that's the thing that makes the world a lot smaller sometimes, when you realize that we're all, wherever we are, building amazing technology and all facing the same challenges. But sometimes it can be very easy to feel like you're all on your own doing it. When you've got so many friends all around the world with the same challenges. Exactly.
Yeah. So Laura, so let's start with your background. One thing that I found very fascinating about your background is your work at CERN, the European Nuclear Research Organization. You're writing software there for the particle accelerator. And now you are here, SafeStack, CEO of the company, and you are securing software, helping the world secure the software. Can you tell us what the journey was like and why you ended up?
Absolutely. Sure. And, it sounds very quick when you say it like that, but it's been 23 years. So I started out at age 16 as a COBOL developer, which most people would not guess because, I'm far too young to have been a COBOL developer. But where I grew up, that was an apprenticeship option that you could take in software development. And then I've had a really fortuitous journey. I've been to CERN and I wrote radiation monitoring software. So essentially, when you spin particles very, very fast, sometimes they get a little bit lost on the way. And my job was to spot when the particles were in the wrong place and get the system to dump the beam. So put those particles somewhere safe, a big concrete bunker under the earth, so that people don't get hurt. I've done lots of wonderful things. I studied artificial intelligence and robotics because, it was amazing, and got lots of cool experience working with the people who think about putting robots in space, which is nice. And then I went on to do counter-terrorism. So I've kind of been really a range of things, from enterprise Java to COBOL to real-time C++. And then in about 2005, 2006, I started on my journey towards security. So I kind of naturally moved from building amazing things to securing amazing things. And in 2020, as part of COVID, it's early in the morning here. Apologies. In 2020, we started to try and realize that as a world right now, there's so many people building amazing technology, from robot doctors to self-driving cars to putting people in space again. There is amazing technology all around us. And we wanted as a company to be able to give the engineers, wherever they were, however big their team were, the skills they need to put security through that, from having an idea all the way through its life cycle, rather than us waiting till the end or waiting till an organization's big enough. So it's been a really wonderful journey of moving from building to then securing and understanding both of those worlds and how those challenges react to each other.
Yeah, fantastic. I love the way you said you went from building things to thinking about securing things. One thing that you have also noticed is that security needs to be a forethought, not an afterthought, right? So I totally
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you were building a house, right, if you get to the point where you're installing the windows and the windows don't fit, but you find out that's because the foundation was wrong, there's nothing you can do to get that window in at that point.
Exactly.
So it's, in software, the earlier we think about things and the more voices and the more eyes we have on the problem, the better it is for us, the better the software. And that's not just about secure software. It's, for me, it's about making security part of quality software. So we already consider usability, accessibility, scaling, performance. So instead of treating it as a separate thing, we're going to treat security as part of that mix. And that means it's part of being an amazing engineer, not just a security engineer.
Yeah, so I totally agree with that one. It reminds me of a statistic. I think it was NIST statistic. We talked about the cost of fixing a problem. If it's a security problem, if it is found in the design, if it's $1, and if you try to fix it in the production, it's $100. Some kind of a huge
absolutely
difference, right? So with software security, I'm thinking it's only going to get worse because
absolutely.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead. Share your perspective.
Yeah, and the other side of this is it's not just the cost of fixing being larger. Sometimes you can get rid of the cost of fixing it entirely. So, we teach application security, secure development at a systems level. So we go from design all the way through the life cycle. Now, some of the wonderful things about doing security at design is sometimes you can look at your design and go, okay, this is horribly insecure, but also, do we need to do it this way? And sometimes it's not that you have to fix the bug later, because sometimes you choose not to write that code. You choose to change your approach. And so that gives you a freedom that isn't just about resolving problems. It's about being innovative, and it's about being efficient with your code. And so I think all of these are voices for a long time that were missing in security. We talked about the problems that can happen, the vulnerabilities, but we don't talk about the elegance and efficiency that security can give your code if you use it at the right time.
Right. So how do you do that in SafeStack? You started SafeStack. I see you have some kind of certification programs. Can you walk me through how that works?
Absolutely. So my team is made up of people who've been doing secure development for a very long time. So many of us are published authors. We run conferences, we speak at things, and we teach, or we used to teach in person, but that doesn't scale. And there are 30 million software developers in the world right now, which is a huge number. And it grows by about 1.2 million per year, which is about 6% year on year. It's massive. So what we do instead of teaching person to person, which, we can't scale one human to 30 million, that's not going to work. We have a community-centric online education platform. So the idea is that we have courses and qualifications on a range of things. So from understanding security, vulnerability, and risk through your common vulnerabilities, like you would see in the OWASP top 10, right the way through to security architecture, DevSecOps, all of those skills you'd need to go all the way through your software development lifecycle. We also have hands-on labs, and not just capture the flag style, but labs for all sorts of things, from software testers to architects. And then we have our community. So much like Purple Book, we believe the future of security is in the people and us connecting with each other. So we provide a safe space for teams from around the world to connect and say, hey, this is hard. How have you done this? Now, these are all people who are using the platform, so they're taking their learning and building and growing on top of that. Now, we're in 31 countries as of this morning, which is a lot more than I could do in person.
Right.
And so we're on this mission to provide it in a way that you don't have to be a large organization. You don't have to be at a certain level of maturity. You can start where you are, and you can learn across your entire team, which means that our whole team of insecurity becomes eventually, with time, 30 million people.
Right. Yeah. So as you embark on this journey, you must have faced some challenges, right? So what do you think are the challenges that teams or organizations need to overcome in order to adopt the mindset that's needed for this?
I think many of our organizations, at least speaking from my experience, we tend to have this belief that organizations are a lot more mature than we are. So, if I'm writing my software right now and I'm like looking at it going, well, I'll do security next year because we're not quite as mature as those other companies out there right now. We'll get to it. It'll be a later thing. But in reality, the data shows us that when we look at initiatives across organizations, only 2% of organizations globally are what we would call experienced maturing practitioners. So people who are doing security all through their life cycle, they've got tools adopted, and they're reviewing those processes and frameworks frequently. About 15% of organizations are exploring. So they're doing bits and pieces, but it may not be as coordinated as we would like. But the rest of us, over 80% of us, aren't doing much at all. And we need to, as a community, embrace the fact that doing security isn't about being ready for it. It's not about doing 100% and making everything super secure. It's about doing one little change of behavior every day. And then the aggregated compounded effect of that over our teams and over our ecosystem is huge. So I think what we need to realize is that it's okay that you're not ready. We're never ready. But doing one little activity each day, even if you're a tiny, tiny team, can be so powerful.
Right. Yeah. So can you give examples of one tiny thing, maybe a couple of tiny things that developers could do to make?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So at the moment, there's this whole range of things that you can do, but I like to pick off the things that are really easy to automate and really kind of set up and forget security. Like, who has time for anything else, right? We don't have time for hours of processes every day, or who has another 6 hours to add to the sprint? None of us. So if we started today and you picked one thing, I would go on a mission to remove the secrets from your source code repositories. So whether you're using GitHub or GitLab, it doesn't matter. Those API keys, those AWS credentials, those passwords, we don't want to have those there. Because if our source code is shared in a way that we're not expecting, for example, those are going to put us at risk. Or if somebody leaves our team, it gives us a lot of work to do to unpick those and roll those credentials. So the easy thing you can do today is you could grab a tool, and there's many available. I'm just going to pick an open source one because it's easy for the audience today. So I'll suggest TruffleHug, but many others exist. And you can run this, you can download it. It's 2 lines to install it on Mac, about the same on Windows. You can run it from the command line. If you just want to go manual, that's fine. And if you're in a CI/CD, so continuous integration, continuous deployment pipeline, you can add a GitHub action that is going to run this every time you do a commit, so a pre-commit hook. The details are available on TruffleHug's website, the little copy-paste example. And you can have that going in less than 5 minutes. And every time you commit, it's going to warn you and block your commit if you've got secrets in there. So it's something you can set up in less than 5 minutes that will give you an actionable result every time you commit going forward, which is security that you don't have to think about. So I'd love for the audience today to go and pick something like that, set it up, and then know that every time their team commits, they're a little tiny bit more secure.
So you are saying these are the tools that they could use to make their, whatever the tiny thing that you said, happen quickly.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So this starts with an understanding. It starts with knowing that having credentials in your source code repo is a bad idea and there's risk. And the next step from knowing is action, and the action is to take a step. So you could manually review that or get a free open source tool, pop it in your pipeline, and then every time you commit, it's going to check before that commit hits the repo and make sure those credentials stay out so that you stay a bit safer.
Right. Yeah. I mean, sometimes small things like this make a big difference for sure. And it's surprising to see how many of these credentials are just sitting there in the live code you share, and before you know, they're out in the open.
Absolutely. And, I'm going to share my own vulnerability here. In 2015, I managed to commit an API key. I have no shame in that. I flipped a repo to be open source and I didn't mean to. And the kind people in the attack community with their DevOps, which is a lot better than ours was in 2015, spotted my key and ran up a $4,000 bill within 8 hours. Wow. So, it's not just about attacking you because, you have something valuable or your data or what your business does. It might just be opportunistic that people spot your credentials or they spot a vulnerability and they use it to use your resources or to attack someone else.
Right. Yeah. So one is simple things that can be done at individual level. And also, I think this is a problem at an organizational level also. We have seen that when you look at software security, there are two teams that need to work together. One is the application security team, and second one is the software development team. And we have seen sometimes maybe their incentives may not be perfectly aligned, because the software development team is incentivized on releasing software quickly, getting them out as soon as possible, right? We need to get the revenue generating features out as soon as possible. And application security team is there to check and make sure that the code that goes out does not have any critical or high priority vulnerabilities in them. So consequently, there seems to be friction between those two teams. So how do you think organizationally companies can change to address this misalignment, and also change maybe incentives for the development team to make security part of their ways of working?
I think there's a couple of things that we can do a little bit better, and that's across many teams of different sizes. The first starts with respect. Now, the core of any culture is based on trust and respect. And one of the problems we've had historically between software engineering departments and security departments is we don't often understand each other's world enough to understand the impact of the things that we suggest. So, for example, if as a security person I say, hey, I need you to put this tool into your lifecycle now, or I need you to do this practice because it's going to reduce risks. If that tool blows up your CI/CD pipeline from 6 minutes to 6 hours, that's not respecting the constraints that the dev team are working under. Vice versa, if the development team don't understand why security risks matter to an organization, so what could possibly go wrong and why could it happen, or they don't understand how many near misses or incidents have happened or issues have been found before because it's kept isolated from them, they're not able to respect when that request is made. Hey, I need you to do something because there's a problem. So I think we need to be a bit more transparent with each other about the reality of our worlds, because sometimes we speak different languages and that's not helping us to work together. The second thing is alignment of incentives and measurement of success. So you mentioned what, our traditional measures, so velocity in our software teams and number of vulnerabilities in our security team. But what if we looked at it differently? What if we had a combined security debt list, which was all the things we know we should be doing in security, but we haven't got to, like we have in technical debt in software development? And what if instead of measuring the number of things we remove from the list and aiming for 0, which if you aim for 0, you will never be incentivized to put anything back on the list? What if we measured both teams against our net change in security debt? So how many things did we add this week versus how many things did we take away? And looking at those relationships and looking at some of the measures we actually use in other bits of economics, we can create an incentive system and a measurement system that is understood by both sides and shared by both sides. So when you're measured in the same way, you have a shared alignment naturally. So increased respect and understanding so that we speak the same language mixed with the same metrics and measurements could be really, really powerful for most tools. And most of that, if I'm completely honest, if all of that sounded very complex, starts with sitting down with each other, having a cup of tea, and just talking, and really listening to what other people's world is like and what they care about and what concerns them.
Right. Yeah, it's so true. I mean, like you essentially took it to the next level and you said how the incentives can be aligned between both of them. So is that part of the work that you do with the organizations?
Yep. So we do everything from teaching engineers how to look at their code and understand risk, to understanding and measuring and communicating that risk to the wider organization, setting DevSecOps pipelines up. We really are across all of the bits that would create secure software. And it's a growing catalog. So we release new content every month. And it ranges, if we look forward into the next year, we've got courses coming through on zero trust and how that affects an organization from the software developer's perspective. We've got how to secure machine learning and AI systems, because that's not as easy as doing a threat model. That's quite different. We teach architectural practices, practical skills, and how to think and understand and conceptualize risk for your environment, which all of these come together to create a mindset shift in our development teams. Right.
Yeah. So do you have an example or can you share an example of a company that you have worked with and the before and after story? This is where they were and they used us and this is how they ended up.
Absolutely. Well, I'll give you a bit of context to some of the environments you might not be familiar with. For any audience that's in the US, we tend to get a bias when we're in the US to companies having much more mature application security teams. And they might actually be a team with multiple people on it. In New Zealand and Australia, in other parts of the world, our average security team size, and that's the whole of the security team, is 1.2 people. So that's risk and compliance, that's your, assurance people and your AppSec people all in one. Now, when you've only got 1.2 people, the change you can make with security, like the way we do it, is really powerful. So we work with a number of fintech companies. So we've got, in e-commerce and fintech, we've got a lot in that space because they're quite clear on their compliance environment. And they know they've got to do this because what they're managing, what they're protecting is very sensitive. We've been able to help organizations with 200 to 1,000 engineers go from having one person who was trying to help with AppSec and feeling massively overwhelmed to having security champions and evangelists in every single dev team. And not just in the sense that they have a label on their LinkedIn, that's lovely and all, but they've got measurable qualifications and they've got processes that they can measure. So things like rolling out threat assessment and threat modeling across all teams in the organization, rather than it having to be led by a security specialist. Now, this scales one person up to several hundred, and that's a change that, we're really proud to be part of making that change in an organization.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I mean, it's all about bringing out whatever, especially the security resources that are so scarce and multiplying them, right? In our conversation with many security leaders, we have seen that for every application security professional, there are 100 developers at best. And we have even seen examples of even 500 developers for every application security engineer, right? So what you are doing is educating the developers in such a way that the load that comes down on the application security team is not that much. Right.
Absolutely. We're not trying to get rid of our AppSec team. We need you. Please come join AppSec. We need as many people as we can get. But what we're trying to do is make sure that you can focus your time on the things that are really those very context-specific challenges, those things that really need to be somebody who lives and breathes AppSec every single day, so that, they're not burdened with the things that could be other people. And also, going back to the respect thing, this is also about respecting our engineers. Our engineers are smart people. They love building systems. They didn't know about performance and scaling when they first started out either, or usability. And so they've learned this as they go. What we're doing now is giving them the opportunity to learn security too, and be, even more professional in their development practice.
Right. So if you were to look in future 5 years from now, and if you feel the mission that you're on has been accomplished, right? At least part of it is accomplished. How would that world look like?
So for me, I would love to see security be something that is considered an essential development practice, so something that we teach from our new graduates all the way through their career. And I would love to see that recognized in career pathways. On a bigger kind of side of the mission, the way we're building software is changing. We're building incredible technology, but we're not building it the same way we did 10 years ago, or even 5 years ago. A lot of what we do right now is pulling together components that have been pre-built and are being reused all over the place to build amazing machines, which is exactly what we should be doing. We shouldn't be writing everything from scratch anymore. But that changes the way that we have to conceptualize secure software. Because if you only write 20% of it and you're using components from all over the world to build it, we've got to understand the risk we inherit and the connected risk of all of our software working together. And I think, for me, creating this foundation of security skills in engineers is an enabler to us being able to then reconsider how we do application security in 5 to 10 years to understand the transitive and connected risk between our software systems. Because we're now going to have an entire development community who are skilled engineers understanding both A, how the software is now built, but B, how security might work in that. And the future of our secure development approaches doesn't belong to people like me, who are from an application security background. The future of security is going to belong to the engineers building the code. We just need them to understand the problem so that they can apply that engineering skill set to fix it.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think that's the end goal, right? That security becomes part of the mindset in the product development itself. Fantastic. So if people want to engage with SafeStack, would they do it at an individual level or organizational level? How is your program set up?
Absolutely. So I've got something exciting to share with the audience, and this is the bit where I'm not trying to sell you anything. So please, honest, no tricks, no credit cards, no gimmicks. SafeStack really lives by its mission. We are trying to train 30 million software engineers. And so what we're doing is we have a free plan. So regardless of where you are right now, that's physically, geographically, age, maturity, whatever size team you are, you can come along to safestack.io and you can sign up to our free plan. And that's going to get you essential secure development courses and some bonus awareness training in case you want to train your wider team. And it's going to do it in a way that you can just sign up and use that for as long as you need. You can get 5 seats, job done. Now, that means that in New Zealand and Australia alone, we have 789,000 organizations that have less than 25 people in it. And that's a global trend. There's hundreds of thousands of organizations, every shape and size, can now do security training for free. If you are bigger, we have a much more comprehensive platform that you can get stuck into. But today, my call to action is come along and check out the free plan. Come and get stuck in. And also watch this space in November, Raj, because a bit of a secret spoiler ahead. In November, SafeStack kicks off something kind of unique globally. We're kicking off a program in New Zealand and Australia where we're giving full access to our program to every new software development graduate in New Zealand and Australia. So all students welcome and all students trained. That's what we're going to try and do. Now, if you're in the US, you're like, why not the US? Well, this is how you can get involved. It takes quite a lot of work for us to train an entire nation and an entire graduate population. So if you want to figure out how we can do it in the US, we're really wanting to talk. So whether you're a giant organization you might want to sponsor, or you're a university, or you're a student and you might want us to help us understand how we get to that audience, then please get in touch. We are a for-profit company, but we are massively mission focused. So my goal is not dollars and cents in this. It is to connect with and give what I do to as many engineers as possible. So I'd love your audience to find ways to help us to do that.
Fantastic. Yeah, I love the missionary zeal that you have here. I think that's what it will take to solve something like this. And that's exactly what we believe in Purple Book community also. Purple Book community, our vision is to democratize software security. And what does that mean? What we do is we bring the best of the best into our community and talk about the pain points, best practices, and use cases, right? I mean, like you came to us as part of that. And this is the kind of players, this is the kind of companies that we want to bring, leaders that we want to bring into the community, because the problem that we need to solve is very big, right? And Absolutely. Then the content that we have created, even in Purple Book community, we have the book itself, and then we have podcasts, blogs, and these other that are freely available to everybody who wants to listen and benefit from that. So Laura, thank you so much. I really enjoyed my conversation with you. Are there any final words that you'd like to share before we end?
No, I just want to say thank you for having me today. And to all those people who are listening who do build software, please keep building amazing things. Yes, it's scary. Yes, security is always going to be a problem, and we are going to get there bit by bit by bit. But if we're not building amazing things, then we've no need for security. So keep doing that. Change the world. It's an exciting time.
All right. Thank you. Here it is, Purple Book community members and the listeners. We had Laura Bell from SafeStack.io. We will come with more interesting conversations like this, and look forward to being with you in the next session.
Thanks for listening to the Purple Book Podcast, home of the world's top security leaders. If you enjoyed this episode, find more content from our experts at thepurplebook.club. Remember, it's thepurplebook.club, not .com. Follow us at the Purple Book Community on LinkedIn and Purple Community on Twitter. Until next time, these are your hosts and guests signing off.